Hi, I'm Daniel Thornton, Head of Music and Creative Arts here at AC, and this is an introductory video for the unit Apply Knowledge of Style and Genre to Music Industry Practice. It's CUAMLT302. So we'll take a little look at some of the content that we cover, the learning outcomes that are expected from this unit, and the assessments, and that'll be the completion of this video. Genre. It's an interesting kind of term because we think we know what it is. We certainly know what it is when it's our genre. But interestingly, if we heard something that we might assign to a particular genre, we heard something that's, if we weren't familiar with country music, we might hear something that sounded slightly country and go, oh yeah, that's country music. But to a country music aficionado, they might go, oh no, that's actually more of a bluegrass, or that's more of something else, a blues roots. Who knows? Clearly, it's not my area of expertise, but genre is important to us because there are expectations that people have within that whole sphere of talking about genre, certain expectations that people expect from a certain style of music. And we can mess with those, but we've got to understand those and how they work and where we fit perhaps with our own musical preferences. And so this whole unit is to give you that broad understanding of the many options, the styles, genres, ways of creating and understanding music and experiencing music and performing music. So we cover a fair few of them. We don't cover all of them, obviously we couldn't, but we start with the general Western music history traditions. So we start with the first medieval and Renaissance composers. We talk about Gregorian chants and the motets and all that vocal music that makes us think of some monastery somewhere in ancient Europe. We move into the Baroque era. We talk about composers like Bach and Handel and composers that you'd probably be familiar with, at least in passing. Of course, you would be familiar with some of their works, like Handel's Messiah. Hallelujah! Then, of course, we move to, in the Western music history tradition, in their timeline, we move through the classical period. Composers like Mozart, Beethoven, there are others. Haydn, Clementi, And from there, moving into what was pretty much the sort of 19th century of Romanticism. None of these, we end up sticking these labels on a period of music. But of course, they were fluid. They were drawing from the past. They were slowly adapting, mixing ideas, thinking up new ideas. So our kind of linear, this is the classical period, this is the romantic period, it just wasn't that in reality. But still, it's helpful for us to kind of understand in broad terms what has happened musically in the Western musical traditions over a long period of time, over centuries and centuries. Finally, we move into that whole period around the turn of the last century, around the turn of the 20th century, where we had Impressionism and then atonalism and 12-tone techniques of Schoenberg and right into the experimental music concrete and all the weird stuff of the mid-1900s. John Cage, into minimalism and some of the more modern ways of thinking about music in the 20th century. So that's that, and then we take a look at the same thing with the popular music history from about the 1950s. Of course, there was popular music before that, but we look at the 50s, the 60s, look at it in the decades, and again, it's an arbitrary kind of delineation, but it's helpful to kind of see some of the patterns that were emerging musically and technologically, and in the whole recording industry, and the ways in which those affected what people were listening to. All the way up to the 2000s, and I better start fitting in the 2010 period, seeing as we're towards the end of it. There's 3 learning elements. One is develop music knowledge, which is what that content is about. Use listening skills to analyse music. This unit is not just about learning a bunch of facts about dead composers or living composers or performers. It's about listening to music. It's about appreciating the array that's out there. So lots of listening in this unit, and maintain music knowledge, which is about keeping current with what's happening in various genres, what's emerging, how your music or the music you love fits into the bigger space of music industry and the world of music, which has become a whole lot smaller with the internet. We can listen to music from pretty much anywhere just by typing it into YouTube these days, which is pretty amazing. So that is that unit. I just remembered I haven't given you the assessments. So there are assessments, sadly. One of those is about just engaging in the weekly discussions, which will end up being forum posts or a summary of that kind of weekly discussion of content. Then there is a recording review where you review a piece of music that's been commercially recorded that you enjoy listening to. It could be something you hate listening to, but why would you do that? And finally, an oral written test. So I will actually play, or it'll be online, there'll be a bunch of audio clips that you'll have to identify the style of music that it is and where it fits into the big picture. So that is that unit, and I hope that it kind of expands your world. Often the way that we think about music is quite limited. It's the music that we like, and we don't want to listen to the music that we don't like. But actually sometimes listening to that, getting that appreciation of the breadth of possibilities in music can really open up a lot of creativity and a lot of appreciation for people and their cultures and their preferences. So enjoy the unit.